Hey guys, I'm over back again. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Galaxy Z Fold 4. I used the Z Fold 3 last year and I was super excited because it was my first time using a super expensive high-end folding phone. This year it is more of an incremental update, so the laws of diminishing return does kick in a little bit. Still exciting and fun to use, but I will go into a deep dive with my full review today. I'm going to talk about some of the pros of this phone, some of the cons, who is it for, and who is it not for. And without wasting any more time, let's jump right into it. In terms of camera, it is on par with about the Galaxy S22 Plus, not the Ultra. So even though you're spending $1,800 for this phone, you're not getting the best possible camera out there. But it is still a really good camera nonetheless. Samsung in general makes some of the best camera. Between them, Apple and Google, can't really go wrong with them in the smartphone space. The only thing that you're really missing is probably the crazy 100x zoom, but it's not like it's something you're using every day. But in general, you can get by with a lot of good photos with the Galaxy Z Fold 4, so no issues there. It captures great videos as well, so it does pretty much everything you expect from a flagship phone in 2022. But at the end of the day, you're not buying it for the best camera in a smartphone, you're just buying it for a phone that can fold into a tablet. Which brings me to my next point. It is basically a tablet that you can fold and put in your pocket and carry anywhere you want. It is perfect for gaming, playing YouTube and Netflix. So if you enjoy spending a lot of time on your phone and consuming media, it is actually a perfect at-home device just to kind of lounge and play around with it. Another thing that is interesting is the new taskbar at the bottom. It makes it quicker to multitask and jump between apps. But to be honest, I don't find myself using it that much. When I go to the recent screen, swiping up, I can access any of the recent apps pretty quickly. It's never really used for me to use these multitasking tabs. I guess I never really bothered customizing it, putting my favorite apps and everything in there. For the most part, I find it just as quick to access the apps on my home screen because I know exactly where they are, and it is more muscle memory versus having to learn another new taskbar and where everything is. But I think it is a pretty cool feature if you force yourself to learn it and use it. But it is something that is not going to be exclusive to the Fold 4. I think eventually they should bring it to the Fold 3, but for now, I guess with the Fold 4, you do get the features first. And another reason that you would want to get the Fold 4 is it's just a different form factor. It's cool, it's fun, it folds, it's a small screen, it's a big screen, so you get a lot of the little quirky fun factor. Because these days all smartphones are basically the same, they're just a boring rectangle. One have green bubbles, one have blue bubbles, but at the end of the day, this is a new form factor that is pretty cool to use, and I do like the big screen whenever I'm at home and just want to consume media. The front screen is a little bit wider than the Fold 3, so it is less awkward than compared to last year. When I used the Fold 3, it felt very long and narrow. For the most part, I can access all my apps pretty easily, but this year it feels a little bit closer to a traditional smartphone, but maybe just a tad slimmer and longer. But either way, I do like the improvement to the front screen. It's very minor, but I think it does make a pretty significant difference. Another big improvement from the Fold 3 to the Fold 4 is the battery life. The battery itself is pretty much the same size, but with the new Snapdragon 8 Gen Plus 1 or whatever they're calling it these days, it is like the latest chip on the Android side, which is nice to see that it is a faster processor than the Galaxy S22 series. As it should be. You're spending $1,800 on this phone, you should have the best of the best. And as a result of that, the battery life is much better compared to last year. I would say overall I get like a day-long battery with this, and if your phone is dead, you can charge it up. It has 25-watt fast charging. You can get up to 50% in about 30 minutes. It is not the fastest by all means, but it is still pretty good though. And some of the things I do not like about this phone is it is still a bit bulky and heavy, and it's not very convenient for running. So if you're an active person and do a lot of sports, it's not very easy to carry around, have in your pocket or even like in your hand while you're running. It is a little bit challenging. I actually got used to it though, but I guess that's where the Galaxy Watch come in if you're willing to spend more money on top of that. But if you're already spending 1,800 bucks, something that I do like to see and likely will see over time is it's probably going to become lighter, thinner, and cheaper. But for now, it is in a pretty good shape. It's just still kind of heavy and there's a lot of tech and hardware in this phone. But I guess on the other side, you could argue it feels very premium and you're getting your money's worth. Just not a very convenient phone to carry around. If you want a convenient phone to carry around, I would recommend the Z Flip 4. But with the Fold 4, you're getting the bigger screen and just a better overall fun user experience. And when I have both the Z Fold 4 and the Z Flip 4, I find myself reaching for the Z Flip 4 more often. If I'm just going up the stairs in my house, if I'm running from my room into the kitchen, I need to grab something and I just want to have my phone with me, I just grab the Z Flip 4 because it easily fits in my pocket. But the Fold is just so much bigger and bulkier. It's just heavy and daunting to carry around. Just the thought of that makes me always reach for the smaller phone. But if I'm just sitting and relaxing and I want to spend time on my phone, I will always reach for the Fold just because of the fact it is a bigger screen and a more fun experience. And the phone itself, you can use it on one hand for the most part. It is a little bit slippery, so if you're spending this much for a phone, I would recommend using a case on it. Personally, I did pre-order the phone and it gave me a case with the S Pen. I actually ended up taking it off because it made it even heavier than it already is. And I don't find myself using the pen as much as I think I would. Even though I love Galaxy Note phones in the past, I never really used the pens either. Unless I had to sign documents or something, but it is not something I do every day. So the phone does feel a little bit slippery if you use it one hand, so just be careful there. The screen itself does pick up dust, so you might need to wipe and clean it pretty often. I guess due to like the folding tech and whatever screen they're using, it does pick up a lot of dust on a day-to-day basis. Same thing for the Z Flip 4. It is pretty noticeable, so every now and then you do have to give it a clean wipe. So just something to keep in mind. Another thing I do like about the phone is the price tag. It is 1,800 bucks. On one end, you can argue for 1,800 you're getting a better phone than last year, which is good. But on the other end, it is too expensive for most consumers. Most people wouldn't even touch this phone just because of the fact that it costs close to $2,000. That's why the Z Flip is the more popular model. $1,000 is still pricey, but it's doable. But for 1,800 bucks, you can literally get the newest and greatest high-end iPhone 14 Pro Max at $1,200. And you still have $600 to spend, so you can even grab like a Pixel 6 or something like that and have two phones and create your own folding phone that way if you want. I mean, it's not the same thing, but just in terms of having like a Pro phone and like another burner phone for the price of 1,800, you can do a lot with that. So the price tag is pretty steep just for a phone that folds in your pocket. I don't know. You can even get like the Galaxy S22 Ultra at 1,200 bucks. And then spend another $600 on a really good tablet if you really want that tablet experience. So there's a lot of room to play with that budget. But 1,800, I still think it is too much. But the tech is still early and they're still developing it. I'm sure it will go down over time once there's more competition. But overall, there's a lot to like in this incremental updates if price is not an issue. Another thing I find to be disappointing about this phone is the crease. It is not much of a difference from last year, if any difference at all. Maybe last year I was so excited to use a folding phone and just having that big screen consuming all the media. It didn't really bother me as much, but this year I do find myself looking at the crease more often, especially when it's not in use. I know if you're watching YouTube from a certain angle, you might not always see it, but at the end of the day, the crease is still there. People who have OCD, they're gonna notice it. Your friends will probably ask about it. They're gonna touch it. They're gonna ask if it bothers you. At the end of the day, since you're paying so much for this phone, it would have been nice to have a cleaner look, but it doesn't take away from the user experience, and it's in the middle of the screen, so it's not like your finger really touches it that often. But it is something that is there, and it's not very pleasing to look at. And it's something that people do question. So just some things to consider if you're buying this phone. And another thing I do not like about this phone is the app is not very optimized for a full screen experience. For example, everything is already default to full screen. You can change the aspect ratio to make it smaller, but if you do that, then you're gonna get a bunch of black bezels on the side, which is not very pleasing to look at. But if you leave it full screen, then just like the little interaction, they don't always map out where it's supposed to be. If you pressing a certain area on the screen, it doesn't always work properly. So there's still a lot of funny, quirky software features that still need to be ironed out. You would think at this point more software developers would put some more resources into optimizing the screen resolution and everything like that, but that's not always the case. You typically see that when Apple does it, because right now this folding market is a very niche area, so not all the software are 100 optimized, so it's just something you have to deal with as an early adopter. Last but not least, it is not running Android 13. So this has been an issue on the Android side of the house since the beginning of time. You're spending $1,800 on a phone, but you're not getting the latest and greatest software updates. Only the Pixel really have the Android 13 available right now. So if you want Android 13, you're likely gonna have to wait until the S23 or whenever Samsung decides to push out the update for the Galaxy Z Fold 4. But long story short, on Android you always have to wait for software updates. Compared to Apple, everybody get the same update from day one, whether they're using an iPhone 8 or an iPhone 14. Alright, so at the end of the day, who is this phone for? This phone is for the tech enthusiasts, I guess, whoever have the $1,800 to spend, and people who are tired of using the same old boring rectangular phone. This is something that's a little bit more fun to use. And I think it's also for people who spend a lot of time consuming media and playing a lot of games on your phone. So anything that require a lot of space and real estate, people who like to draw and take advantage of the bigger screen, I think there's a lot of use there. Galaxy Notes has always been great phones, but at the same time, I feel like even though they have always been like the bigger size phone, like the screen itself always feels just a little bit too small just to get creative and draw, but now you do have more screen real estate. Personally, that's not for me. I'm not really artistically gifted, but at the same time I can see a lot of people have a use for that. So who is this phone not for? I would say it's not for people who are on the go. It is heavy and bulky unless you have a smartwatch and willing to leave this phone behind when you're running or something like that. And it's also not for people in the iPhone ecosystem who are stuck in there forever. I mean, once you're in the iPhone ecosystem, nothing really going to change your mind and convince you unless you make up your mind on it and willing to make the change. But I think for the most part, most people in the Apple ecosystem will just wait until Apple eventually make a folding phone 5 years later, then be the first to go buy it, rather than playing with the new technologies today. Alright guys, there you have it. That is my full review of the Galaxy Z Fold 4. Let me know what your thoughts are on this phone or just folding phones in general. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.